It was the single sentence James spoke to Emma that day which struck her as both the heaviest and most honest words she had ever heard. There are moments when you look someone straight in the eyes and suddenly understand everything. This was one of those moments. Her heart clenched, her breath faltered. It felt as if an invisible knot had tightened around her throat. The words he uttered didn't just echo in her ears, they resonated deep within her soul. In that instant, she knew nothing in her life would ever be the same again. Emma had been separated from her husband, Mark, for 4 years, though in truth, she had only truly parted ways with him. She still kept in touch with his close circle of friends, who, surprisingly, remained fond of her. One of them was James. One day, unexpectedly, James sent her a message on social media. It was a compliment, a brief but flattering note that caught Emma off guard. After a moment's hesitation, James apologized, claiming it was sent by mistake. They laughed it off. After all, he was a bachelor and these things happen, he joked. That very evening the doorbell rang. When Emma opened it, there stood James, looking just as composed but with a glint of mischief in his eyes. "I hope you didn't come by mistake too?" she teased, and they both laughed heartily. She invited him inside and they settled down, the room softly lit, the air thick with unspoken words. Conversation flowed easily, and after some time Emma offered him a drink. The awkwardness of the earlier message resurfaced and James confessed, "I came because of that message." Emma smiled, brushing it off. "No worries. Sometimes I send messages to the wrong person too. Only they never quite disappear, do they?" She laughed lightly, but then James's expression shifted. He paused before admitting quietly, "I didn't send it by mistake." Emma's surprise was palpable. Standing up, James came closer and looked into her eyes. "My feelings, everything I said, it's all true. I really like you." His voice was steady, but it carried a warmth that wrapped around her like a gentle flame. Silence fell between them, but it was not awkward. It was charged with something delicate and profound. The air seemed to slow, their heartbeats sinking in an invisible rhythm. Emma felt a strange warmth spread through her, like ripples on a still lake stirred by a sudden breeze. Time dissolved, leaving only the weight of the moment, heavy and tender. It was as if the clouds that had hung over her for years finally parted, letting light flood every corner of her being. After a while, she gathered her breath, still stunned. She hadn't expected such closeness with James. Yet here she was, wrapped in a mixture of surprise, curiosity, and an unexpected peace. It felt as if she had arrived at a safe harbor after a long, lonely journey. They turned on the television, an attempt to break the silence, but James suggested, "Let's get some snacks. Maybe a drink?" Emma raised an eyebrow but smiled. "It's late," she protested, "no snacks tonight." James grinned, "It's never too late." He made it clear he wasn't planning to leave anytime soon. Emma fetched some treats and they ate and talked, but this time the atmosphere was different. They were more relaxed, more open. The night stretched on, each moment more intimate than the last. Emma's outfit, a soft silk blouse paired with a skirt that swayed just so, caught the dim light, accentuating the curve of her neck and the delicate bracelet that jingled softly as she moved. Her shoes, elegant but understated, tapped lightly against the wooden floor. James noticed everything, the way her eyes sparkled when she laughed, the subtle scent of jasmine that lingered around her. Their conversation slowed, replaced by shared glances and quiet smiles. Emma felt a gentle wave of emotions, a calm she hadn't known she was missing. It was like a door had creaked open in her heart, letting in a soft, golden light. Later, as the night wore on, James looked at her with a soft smile. "I should probably head off." Emma blinked, caught off guard by how natural and peaceful the moment felt. She nodded, a quiet acceptance settling over her. She went to bed that night with a strange calmness, as if the storm inside her had finally abated. But then days passed and James didn't call. No messages, not a word. First Emma was confused, then thoughtful. Maybe last night was just a fleeting spark, a moment's courage born from loneliness. A bittersweet ache settled in her chest, a memory perhaps like a dream fading with the dawn. Yet somewhere deep inside a question lingered. What if it wasn't just a mistake? What if James's feelings were real? And more importantly, what was he really thinking? The silence after their night together was louder than any conversation. And Emma knew somehow this story was far from over. The morning sunlight spilled through the curtains of Emma's modest flat in the sleepy town of Ashford, casting warm patterns across the hardwood floor. She sat by the window, nursing a cup of tea, her fingers tracing the rim absent-mindedly. The quiet was almost deafening. James's absence from her life since that evening felt like a puzzle with missing pieces, frustrating and confusing. Emma dressed carefully that day, choosing a soft lavender blouse that hugged her shoulders just right, paired with a pencil skirt that ended neatly at her knees. Her black ankle boots clicked softly as she walked down the narrow streets, the crisp spring air carrying the faint scent of blooming lilacs. Her silver necklace, a simple chain with a tiny heart pendant, caught the sunlight every time she moved, adding a subtle shimmer that seemed to echo the fluttering in her chest. She tried to focus on her work at the local bookstore, but her mind kept drifting back to James. Why had he come that night? And why had he vanished now? She had always thought their connection was nothing more than a fleeting moment, a spark in the dark, but the way he looked at her, the way he spoke, it had felt different, genuine. Emma sighed, shaking her head. "Stop it," she muttered to herself. "He's probably just being polite. Or maybe he got cold feet." She chuckled softly, imagining James running away in oversized slippers. Something about the image made her smile. Later that afternoon, as Emma arranged new titles on the shelves, the bell above the door jingled. She looked up, heart skipping a beat, but it was only Mr. Collins, the elderly gentleman who came in every Wednesday for his crime novels. He gave her a knowing wink. "Waiting for someone, Emma?" he teased. Emma blushed. "No, just lost in my daydreams, I guess." That evening Emma's phone buzzed quietly on the kitchen counter. She glanced at it, hope flickering, but it was just a notification about a trivia night at the local pub. She smiled wryly. Maybe distractions were better than waiting for answers. As she prepared dinner, Emma's thoughts wandered to James's words, the sincerity, the warmth. She wondered if he had ever felt this way before, or if she was the first person to stir something beneath his calm exterior. She pictured him sitting alone in his flat, perhaps staring at the same moonlight she could see from her window, wrestling with his own silent questions. The night deepened, and Emma stood by her window, the cool breeze brushing against her skin through the slightly open sash. The town was quiet, but her mind was anything but. Somewhere out there, James was a mystery she hadn't yet solved, and she wasn't sure if she wanted to run from it, or dive in headfirst. As the clock struck midnight, a faint vibration buzzed from her phone again. This time she didn't hesitate. With trembling fingers, she picked it up. A single message appeared on the screen. *, we need to talk. Tomorrow. 7 p.m. The Old Oak Cafe. *, Emma's breath caught. The game was on. But little did she know, beneath the calm surface of Ashford, secrets were stirring. Secrets that would challenge everything she thought she knew about James and herself. Emma stood frozen in her tiny kitchen, the glow of her phone casting shadows across her face. The message from James was simple, yet heavy with promise, and a hint of something unspoken. *, we need to talk. Tomorrow. 7 p.m. The Old Oak Cafe. *, her heart fluttered like a trapped bird, wings beating against ribs of uncertainty and excitement. The Old Oak Cafe was a cozy little spot nestled on the corner of High Street, famous for its creaky wooden floors and the best caramel lattes in Ashford. Emma had visited it countless times, often alone, scribbling notes or losing herself in a book. Tonight, the thought of returning there with James felt like stepping onto a stage, an audience of one, with the spotlight firmly fixed on her. The next evening arrived wrapped in a soft drizzle, the kind that made the cobblestones glisten like scattered jewels. Emma chose a deep emerald dress, the kind that hugged her waist and flowed gently to her knees, paired with black heels that clicked confidently as she walked. Her hair was styled in loose waves, falling just past her shoulders, and a delicate silver bracelet adorned her wrist, catching the dim streetlights. Subtle yet undeniably captivating, like a secret waiting to be discovered. As she pushed open the cafe door, the familiar scent of coffee and baked goods wrapped around her like a warm blanket. James was already there, seated at a corner table beneath a flickering vintage lamp. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and he wore a navy sweater that made his blue eyes seem even more intense. He looked up as she approached, a nervous smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Emma," he said softly, standing to greet her. "Thanks for coming," she smiled back, taking the seat opposite him, the wooden chair creaking beneath her. "You sounded serious. What's on your mind?" James took a deep breath, fingers tapping rhythmically against the table. Look, I know last night caught you off guard and maybe I scared you a bit. But there's something I've been meaning to tell you for a long time. Something I haven't been brave enough to say. Emma leaned in, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. I'm listening. He hesitated, then chuckled nervously. You know how they say timing is everything? Well, mine's been terrible. I've been stuck in this routine pretending everything's fine. But meeting you again, it's like someone threw a wrench in my carefully built schedule. Emma raised an eyebrow. A wrench, huh? So what, you're the handyman now? James laughed, the sound warm and genuine. Maybe. Or maybe I just need help fixing the mess. The truth is, I've admired you from afar for years. Even when you were with Mark. I thought it was impossible, but here I am, hoping for something real. Emma's heart skipped. A rush of emotions swirling inside her: hope, fear, longing. The cafe's cozy atmosphere seemed to shrink around them, isolating this fragile bubble of honesty. Before she could respond, the door chimed again, and a gust of wind swept in a figure cloaked in a long trench coat. The newcomer's eyes scanned the room sharply, lingering briefly on their table before turning away. Emma caught the glance, a flicker of recognition, a shadow of unease. James noticed it too. Did you see that? Emma nodded, her voice barely a whisper. Yeah. Who do you think that was? James's jaw tightened. Someone who shouldn't be here. The air between them shifted, thickening with tension. The warmth of their moment was suddenly pierced by an undercurrent of danger, that Emma's fingers tightened around her cup. Maybe this isn't just about us after all. James's gaze darkened. No, it's not. Outside, the rain intensified, pounding against the windows like a warning drumbeat. Inside the Old Oak Cafe, two people sat on the edge of something far bigger than a chance reunion, caught between the comfort of a new beginning and the shadows lurking just beyond the light. And as the clock ticked toward midnight, a quiet voice whispered through the storm. Some secrets refused to stay buried. Emma's breath caught in her throat as the stranger's sharp gaze lingered a moment longer before slipping out into the rainy night. The cafe's warm glow suddenly felt fragile, like a candle flickering against an approaching storm. James's fingers trembled slightly as he reached across the table, brushing a stray lock of hair from Emma's face. We need to be careful, he murmured, voice low and urgent. That wasn't just a random passerby. Emma nodded, the thrill of danger sending a shiver down her spine. Do you think it's connected to Mark? James's eyes darkened. More than you know. There are things about him and his circle that you've never been told. Things I've been trying to protect you from. The weight of his words settled between them, heavy and suffocating. Emma's mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of a puzzle she never realized she was part of. Her emerald dress felt suddenly too thin against the chill creeping into her bones. Why now? She whispered. Why come back into my life if it's all so dangerous? James hesitated, then smiled. A sad, almost apologetic smile. Because I couldn't stay away. You're the only light I've seen in years. But I'm afraid that light might attract more than just warmth. Emma's lips curled into a nervous smile. So what, I'm a moth now? Great. I always wanted to be a bug. James chuckled softly, the tension easing for a moment. Well, you've always had a knack for drama. Their shared laughter was brief, cut short by the sudden flicker of the cafe lights. Outside, the rain pounded harder like a warning drum. James glanced toward the door. We should get you home. Emma stood, smoothing her dress, heels clicking sharply on the wooden floor. As they stepped outside, the cold night air wrapped around them, brisk and unforgiving. The stranger's shadow seemed to follow, a silent reminder that their newfound connection was anything but simple. Walking side by side down the slick cobblestones, Emma felt the warmth of James's presence beside her, steady, reassuring. Yet beneath that comfort simmered a storm neither of them could ignore. Just as they reached her doorstep, James stopped, his hand brushing lightly against hers. Emma, whatever happens, you're not alone. She met his gaze, the depth of his promise settling deep in her chest. Neither are you. As the door closed behind her, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that this night was only the beginning. Somewhere in the shadows of Ashford, secrets stirred, ready to unravel everything she thought she knew. And somewhere, someone was watching, waiting for the right moment to make their move. The next morning, sunlight filtered weakly through the pale curtains of Emma's bedroom, casting soft lines across the scattered pages of her journal. She sat at her small writing desk, fingers hovering over the pen, yet unable to capture the whirlwind of thoughts swirling inside her. The night's events had left a mark, an uneasy mix of hope and fear tangled beneath her skin. Her reflection in the mirror caught her eye. Loose waves of chestnut hair framed a face both determined and uncertain. Today, she wore a fitted navy blouse that emphasized the curve of her collarbone, paired with tailored trousers that hinted at quiet confidence. A delicate silver ring gleamed on her finger, its subtle sparkle a quiet reminder that even in chaos, small anchors exist. Determined to find answers, Emma decided to visit the town library. The ancient stone building stood proudly at the edge of Ashford Square, its towering shelves promising secrets and stories alike. As she stepped inside, the familiar scent of aged paper and polished wood wrapped around her like an old friend. Hours passed as Emma sifted through local archives and newspaper clippings, searching for any hint about James's cryptic warnings or the mysterious man at the cafe. She juggled cups of black coffee and the occasional nervous glance over her shoulder, half expecting to sense the shadow of the stranger lurking nearby. Then, tucked between yellowed pages of a decades-old article, she found it. A brief mention of a scandal involving a powerful family in Ashford, whispers of betrayal, and a sudden disappearance. The names were different, but the patterns unnervingly familiar. Her phone buzzed sharply, breaking the silence. A message from an unknown number. Stop digging, Emma. Some stones are better left unturned. Her pulse quickened. Was this a warning? A challenge? She swallowed hard, a wry smile tugging at her lips. Well, I've never been good at taking advice, she muttered. A sudden noise startled her. A soft footstep echoing in the quiet library aisle. Emma spun around, heart pounding, but no one was there. Just the shadows dancing between the shelves. Outside, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over Ashford's cobblestones. Emma knew the calm was deceptive. The past was clawing its way back, and with it, danger she'd only just begun to understand. As she closed her book and stepped into the fading light, a chill ran down her spine. Behind her, the library door creaked open, and a figure slipped inside unseen. Some stories, Emma realized, refused to stay buried, and some mysteries were hungry for answers. That evening, Emma returned home with a restless energy buzzing beneath her skin. The soft glow of her living room lamp cast long shadows across the walls, painting her familiar space with an eerie, almost cinematic quality. She wore a burgundy wrap dress that hugged her silhouette gracefully, the fabric shimmering slightly as she moved. Her black stilettos clicked softly on the hardwood floor, a subtle contrast to the quiet tension filling the room. A thin silver necklace, delicate and understated, rested just above her collarbone, catching the light with every breath she took. She paced slowly, phone clenched tightly in one hand, replaying the cryptic message over and over in her mind. Stop digging, Emma. Some stones are better left unturned. The warning felt less like advice and more like a threat. Yet, despite the chill it sent down her spine, a stubborn fire ignited within her, a refusal to be silenced. Just as she settled onto the plush couch, the doorbell rang sharply, slicing through the silence. Emma's heart leapt. Who could it be at this hour? She smoothed her dress, took a steadying breath, and opened the door. There stood James, drenched from the sudden rain, his dark hair plastered to his forehead. His eyes, intense and searching, flickered with a mix of urgency and relief. Emma, he said, voice low, I had to see you. There's something you need to know. She stepped aside, letting him in as thunder rumbled softly outside. The room seemed to shrink around them, charged with unspoken secrets and mounting tension. James pulled off his soaked jacket, revealing a crisp white shirt clinging to his frame. His sleeves were rolled up, exposing strong forearms marked by faint scars. Silent stories Emma had never asked about. He paced briefly before turning to face her, eyes never leaving hers. There's more to Mark's circle than I told you, James began, voice steady but edged with something darker. They're involved in things, illegal things, that reach far beyond Ashford. And now, because of you, they're watching. Emma's breath hitched, a mixture of fear and adrenaline flooding her veins. Why me? Why now? Because you're the key, James said, a grim smile tugging at his lips. And because I made a mistake thinking I could protect you from this. Emma swallowed hard, the weight of his words sinking in. The cozy life she built was unraveling, thread by thread. Suddenly the lights flickered, plunging the room into momentary darkness. When the glow returned, A shadow moved past the window, silent, swift, and watching. James froze, then stepped toward the door. We're not safe here. Not anymore. Emma's pulse quickened, but beneath the fear, a strange calm settled. Whatever lay ahead, she wouldn't face it alone. As the rain hammered the panes and the night deepened, two figures slipped into the shadows, bound by secrets, danger, and a fragile hope. Outside, unseen and silent, eyes gleamed with cold calculation, and somewhere in the dark, a whispered promise lingered. The real game was just beginning. The rain had eased to a steady drizzle by the time Emma and James slipped out into the night, their footsteps muffled against the slick cobblestones of Ashford's winding streets. Emma's burgundy dress clung delicately to her as the cool air teased the exposed skin of her neck and shoulders, sending a shiver down her spine. Her heels clicked softly, steady but cautious, as they moved toward the dim glow of James's car parked just a few blocks away. James glanced over, his dark eyes flickering with something unreadable, determination, worry, or maybe both. He wore a leather jacket that gave him an edge of ruggedness, and his hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles pale beneath the streetlights. The tension between them was palpable, a silent acknowledgement that their lives had just taken a dangerous turn. Sliding into the driver's seat, James started the engine, the low rumble filling the quiet night. Emma buckled her seatbelt, her fingers brushing against the silver ring on her hand, a small talisman against the unknown. She caught James's gaze in the rearview mirror, and for a moment their eyes locked, an unspoken promise to face whatever came next together. As they drove through the sleepy outskirts of Ashford, James's voice broke the silence. There's a place I want to take you. Somewhere safe, at least for now. Emma nodded, clutching her purse tightly. Lead the way. The road twisted through dense woods, the headlights cutting through the darkness like twin searchlights. The air smelled of wet earth and pine, a stark contrast to the suffocating secrets they'd left behind. After several miles, they arrived at an old country cottage nestled in a clearing, a place that looked forgotten by time. Ivy crawled up the weathered stone walls, and warm light spilled from curtained windows. Inside, the cottage was cozy yet mysterious. Soft rugs covered creaky wooden floors, and flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on the walls. Emma's emerald eyes scanned the room as James closed the door behind them, his expression softening just a little. This is where I come when things get complicated, he said, offering her a seat by the fireplace. No one knows about this place. Emma sank into the plush armchair, the firelight flickering over her delicate features. Her dress shimmered subtly as she shifted, the neckline revealing just enough to hint at elegance without daring too much. Her lips curled into a small, knowing smile. I like it here. Feels like a secret worth keeping. James smiled back, the tension easing slightly. Good. Because secrets are all we have right now. Just as the fire crackled, a sudden knock echoed through the quiet cottage. Both froze. Emma's pulse quickened. The knock was deliberate, slow, demanding. James moved toward the door cautiously, peering through the peephole. Outside stood a woman cloaked in shadows, wearing a tailored black coat and heels that clicked sharply against the porch. Her eyes gleamed with icy resolve. Emma's breath hitched. Who is that? James's jaw tightened. Someone from the past. A ghost I hoped was gone for good. As the door creaked open, the woman stepped inside, her gaze locking onto Emma with a chilling smile. James, she said softly. We need to talk. All of this. It's far from over. The fire flickered wildly, shadows leaping across the room as the storm outside gathered strength. And in that moment, Emma realized the real danger was only just beginning. The woman's voice was smooth, almost hypnotic, as she stepped fully into the room, the flickering firelight casting sharp highlights across her sharp cheekbones and piercing gray eyes. She wore a sleek black dress that hugged her figure perfectly, the hem flirting just above the knee, paired with stiletto heels that clicked confidently on the wooden floor. A silver pendant hung from her neck, catching the firelight with every subtle movement, like a secret waiting to be unraveled. Emma, she said, her gaze lingering on Emma's delicate features. I've heard so much about you. Emma swallowed, the air thick with tension and something unspoken, a challenge perhaps or a warning. She shifted slightly in her chair, the emerald fabric of her dress shimmering, the soft curve of her neck exposed as her hair fell just so over one shoulder. James's jaw tightened, his usual calm replaced by a flicker of unease. Lena, he said coldly. What are you doing here? Lena smiled, but it was a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Oh, James, still playing the protector? You should know by now, some things aren't so easy to guard against. Emma felt a chill creep up her spine, but she forced herself to meet Lena's gaze steadily. Who is she? She asked quietly. James hesitated, then answered. Lena was part of a past I tried to leave behind. She knows things, dangerous things. And she's tied to all of this mess we're in. Lena stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. You're both in deeper than you realize. And the clock is ticking. Emma's heart hammered in her chest as the weight of the moment pressed down on her. The cozy cottage, the firelight, the quiet hope she'd felt just moments before. They all seemed to shatter like glass. James looked at Emma, his eyes dark and resolute. We need to figure out what she wants. Before it's too late. Lena's lips curled into a sly smile. Oh, I don't want to hurt you. Not yet. But if you don't cooperate, I can't promise the same for those you care about. Emma's fingers tightened around the armrest. The faint jingle of her silver bracelet the only sound in the heavy silence. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the windows like a warning. Inside, the three of them sat on the edge of a dangerous game, one where trust was scarce, and every secret could be a trap. And as the night deepened, Emma realized that survival would depend on unraveling mysteries darker than she ever imagined. But the question lingered, sharp and relentless. Who could she really trust? Lena's eyes flicked toward Emma with an unsettling intensity, as if she could see right through her. You're more important to this than you think, she said softly, stepping closer. The subtle scent of her perfume, something floral but with a sharp, almost metallic edge, wafted through the room, wrapping around Emma like a whispered secret. Emma's fingers unconsciously brushed the silver ring on her hand, grounding herself. She straightened in her chair, the emerald dress catching the firelight in a way that made her skin seem to glow softly. Her lips curved into a small, defiant smile. Then why don't you tell me exactly what that means? Lena's smile deepened, almost predatory. Because, my dear, some truths are better discovered by experience. But don't worry. I'll make sure you get there soon enough. She glanced at James, her gaze sharp. James, you always did underestimate the cost of silence. James's eyes narrowed. Enough games, Lena. What do you want? She laughed, a sound both musical and chilling. I want what's owed to me. And I want you both to understand that in this town, loyalty is a currency far more volatile than money. Emma's heart pounded as the layers of the past began to peel away, revealing a web more tangled than she'd ever imagined. The room seemed to close in, shadows stretching longer, the fire's warmth suddenly feeling distant. James reached out, taking Emma's hand gently. We'll face this together, he promised, voice steady despite the storm brewing around them. Lena's smile faltered for just a moment, replaced by a flicker of something unreadable. Then with a graceful nod, she stepped back toward the door. For now. But remember, the next move isn't yours. As the door clicked shut behind her, silence fell like a heavy curtain. Emma exhaled slowly, the weight of the night settling deep in her bones. James pulled her close, his voice a low whisper. This is only the beginning. Outside, the wind carried a faint haunting melody, a tune that seemed to echo the secrets yet to be uncovered. And somewhere, hidden in the shadows of Ashford, the real game was already underway. Days passed in a blur, the tension between Emma and James weaving through every moment like an undercurrent they couldn't escape. Emma found herself drawn deeper into a world she barely understood. A labyrinth of whispered threats, hidden alliances and secrets older than the town itself. One afternoon, she stood before the tall windows of Ashford's art gallery, the sunlight filtering through stained glass and casting kaleidoscopic patterns across her figure. Her dress was a soft cream color, flowing and light, contrasting with the storm that brewed inside her. Delicate gold earrings caught the light as she tilted her head, revealing a slender neck dusted with freckles. Her lips pressed into a determined line, the faintest shadow of a smile playing at the corners. James was beside her, the lines of worry etched subtly around his eyes softened only by the quiet strength he offered. He wore a tailored gray jacket over a casual white shirt, the sleeves rolled up just enough to hint at the scars she'd glimpsed before. Reminders of battles fought and survived. We have to find out who's behind this, James said, voice low but firm. Lena's just the surface. Emma nodded, her gaze steady. And how do we start? Before he could answer, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Asterisk, meet me at the pier. Midnight. Come alone. Asterisk, a chill ran down her spine. It's a trap, James warned immediately. Emma shook her head, a spark lighting in her eyes. Or it's the break we need. That night, wrapped in a sleek black coat and soft scarf, Emma made her way to the pier. The air was crisp, the faint scent of salt water mingling with the fog rolling in from the river. Her boots clicked softly against the wooden planks, each step echoing in the quiet night. She reached the end of the pier. A lone figure emerged from the mist, tall, shadowed, their face obscured beneath a hood. Emma's heart pounded, every nerve alive with anticipation and fear. The figure stepped forward, voice barely above a whisper. "You want answers? I can give you some. But nothing comes without a price." Emma squared her shoulders, the moonlight catching the determined glint in her eyes. "I'm ready." Behind her, unseen, a pair of eyes watched from the darkness, and the night held its breath.